Oak Ridge Country Club, the sprawling greens glistening in the sunlight, dotted with golf carts and the soft clink of clubs. The rich hum of conversation filled the air as members, men in crisp polos and women in designer hats, sipped iced drinks and exchanged polite greetings. It was a world of privilege, one that Emma, a young caddie, had grown accustomed to despite feeling like an outsider. Her job was simple: carry bags, retrieve golf balls, and stay out of the way. She had a smile for everyone, even if their condescending looks sometimes felt like daggers. But today was different. Today, she felt the eyes of the golf elite on her in a way she hadn't before. It started with the Johnson twins, two boys who wore their privilege like a badge, never missing an opportunity to remind anyone who crossed their path of how untouchable they were. They were the kind of boys who could make a grown man feel small with a single sneer. "Hey, Caddie," one of them called out from the tee box, snapping his fingers like she was a servant. "You think you can handle this? Or are you too busy thinking about your next meal?" The comment stung. Emma clenched her jaw but said nothing. This wasn't the first time they'd taunted her, but it was by far the cruelest. She stepped forward to retrieve their clubs, the weight of their dismissive glances pressing on her. As she reached for the driver, she heard the unmistakable sound of the club swishing through the air, followed by a sickening thud. Her heart dropped. She turned just in time to see one of the twins swing the club and strike something small and furry, a little brown puppy that had wandered too close to the green. The puppy yelped in pain, and Emma froze, her mind racing. "Did you just hit that dog?" she demanded, her voice trembling with fury. The twins exchanged amused glances, shrugging like it was no big deal. "What, this thing?" one of them said, nudging the puppy with his foot as it whimpered. "It's just a dog. Who cares?" Emma's heart pounded in her chest. The puppy, her puppy, had been following her around the course for days, an innocent, loyal little creature that had somehow found a place in her lonely world. The thought of seeing it hurt, abandoned and defenseless, ignited something deep within her. Without thinking, she rushed forward to scoop the puppy into her arms. "I'm calling security," she said, her voice steady despite the tears threatening to spill. The twins laughed, the sound like nails on a chalkboard. "Go ahead," one of them sneered. "They'll take your side. They always do." But before Emma could make a move, the air seemed to shift. A man in a black baseball cap and casual attire walked toward the scene, his eyes sharp and observant. His posture was straight, and there was something about the way he carried himself that commanded immediate respect. He wasn't dressed like the other members of the club. He didn't fit in with the rich crowd, but there was an undeniable air of authority about him. He approached the group, his eyes scanning the situation quickly. "What's going on here?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. Emma glanced up, startled. They hurt my puppy," she whispered, her voice breaking. The puppy was now nestled against her chest, its small body trembling. The man's expression darkened. "I see," he said, his voice laced with a quiet intensity. He turned to the twins, his gaze unflinching. "You two have some serious explaining to do." The twins sneered but didn't speak. They weren't used to someone standing up to them. They were used to everyone in this world bending to their will, but this man was different. "I think you should leave," the man said, stepping closer to the twins. His eyes were hard now, like a steel trap. "You don't belong here." The boys scoffed, about to speak, but the man raised a hand to silence them. "I've seen what you've done. I've seen how you treat people, and animals, and I won't stand for it. Now, go." The twins hesitated for a moment, clearly unnerved, before they turned and stormed off, muttering under their breath. Emma's eyes widened. Who are you?" she asked, her voice still shaky. The man turned to her with a soft smile, though his eyes remained sharp. "I'm someone who doesn't tolerate bullies. And I've had enough of seeing people like you being treated this way." His words hit her like a wave, washing over the anger and hurt she had carried for so long. She had never known someone who would step in like that, someone who would stand up for her without asking for anything in return. "I'm Emma," she said, wiping away a tear. "And this little guy's my puppy. His name's Max." The man nodded. "Max is lucky to have you." He crouched down, his eyes softening as he gently stroked the puppy's head. "I know how it feels to be overlooked," he said, his voice low and personal. "I've been there, too." Emma blinked. There was something in his voice, something she couldn't quite place. You know. The man's eyes hardened for just a moment, and then he smiled again. Yeah, I've seen the worst of people. But I've also seen the best. I've learned that kindness is stronger than hate, and that standing up for what's right can change everything. Emma's heart fluttered. It was strange, hearing words like that from someone she didn't know. But there was an undeniable sincerity to them. The man stood, his posture straightening as he looked around the golf course, then back at Emma. What's your plan for the rest of the day? He asked, a curious glint in his eyes. I'm supposed to finish up my shift, she replied. But I don't really know if I want to be here anymore. It doesn't feel like a place I belong. He nodded, understanding. Why don't you take the rest of the day off? I'll cover for you. Emma's eyes widened. But, no buts, he said with a gentle smile. You've earned it. Plus, I think Max might appreciate a little rest. Take him home, get him checked out, and make sure he's okay. Emma nodded, feeling a wave of gratitude wash over her. She didn't know who this man was, but his kindness had already changed her world. As she walked off the course with Max in her arms, the man called after her. Remember, Emma, he said, his voice carrying in the breeze. You don't have to take abuse from anyone. Stand tall. The world will respect you when you respect yourself. She turned to look at him, her heart swelling with something she couldn't name. Thank you, she whispered, feeling for the first time in a long time that someone truly saw her. The man nodded once, then turned back to the course. But Emma knew that she would never forget the moment he had stood up for her. Against the bullies, against the world that often felt so cold and indifferent. She knew that his words would stay with her, that they would guide her from this day forward. And as she left Oak Ridge Country Club behind, she felt a quiet sense of peace settle over her. It was as if she had just taken her first real step into a world where kindness mattered more than power, and where standing up for what was right could make all the difference. From that day forward, Emma carried herself differently. No longer did she shrink in the presence of the wealthy and the powerful. No longer did she tolerate cruelty or indifference. She had learned that kindness was a weapon, one that could disarm even the most arrogant of people. And she had learned that even in the face of adversity, there was always someone willing to stand by you. As for Max, he recovered, of course. And though the scars from that day would fade, the lesson that both Emma and Max learned would last a lifetime. Sometimes, all it took was one person, the right person, to change everything. And that was enough to make the world feel like a brighter place. As the days passed, Emma's life began to change in ways she never could have anticipated. The incident at Oak Ridge Country Club lingered in her mind, but not because of the pain or humiliation she had felt. No, it was the man, the Navy SEAL, who had stepped in when no one else did. His words, his actions, had ignited a spark inside her. It wasn't just about standing up for herself anymore. It was about standing up for others too. Emma realized that for years, she had been accepting the cruelty of the rich, the careless disregard of those with power. But now she was determined to make a difference, not just for herself, but for anyone who had ever felt small, invisible, or voiceless. She started small. The next time a member of the club made a disparaging remark, she didn't shrink away. She didn't let the insult fester inside her. Instead, she held her head high and walked away with quiet dignity, letting her actions speak louder than their words. Her newfound strength didn't go unnoticed. One afternoon, as she was walking across the course to fetch a ball for a golfer, the head of the Caddie program, a woman named Karen, approached her. Emma, Karen said, her tone surprisingly warm. I've been hearing things. Emma raised an eyebrow, unsure of where this was going. Karen smiled, a small, approving smile. People are noticing how you've been handling yourself lately. You've got more confidence, more poise. You're not letting the petty things bother you anymore. She paused for a moment. I think it's time you took on more responsibility. You've earned it. Emma blinked, taken aback by the offer. More responsibility. What do you mean? Karen explained that there was a special training program for the more experienced caddies, one that led to a more prestigious position in the club, with better tips and, perhaps, a chance at a brighter future. It wasn't something that was handed out to everyone, but Karen believed Emma was ready. Emma's heart raced. She had always dreamed of more than just carrying bags for the rich and famous. The idea of actually becoming a trusted member of the club, respected, valued, was a far-off fantasy she'd never dared to pursue. But now, it seemed within reach. "I'll do it," Emma said, her voice steady, her mind already filled with the possibilities. "I want to learn." Karen gave her an approving nod. "I knew you would. We'll start next week. The following weeks were a whirlwind. Emma threw herself into the training program with everything she had. She learned the ins and outs of the game, how to read the wind, how to judge the distance between the golfer and the hole, how to anticipate their every move. She studied the etiquette of the course, the history of the club, and the delicate social dance that took place on the greens. As the training program progressed, Emma's reputation at Oak Ridge began to shift. No longer was she just the quiet caddy in the background. Now, she was someone who commanded respect. She held her head higher, moved with purpose, and answered questions with the quiet confidence that only comes from knowing you belong. It wasn't just the members who noticed her transformation. Her fellow caddies did, too. They saw the way she carried herself now, the way she no longer accepted disrespect, the way she stood up for herself and others when it mattered. Emma became a symbol of quiet strength, a reminder that kindness, dignity, and hard work could get you further than arrogance and entitlement ever could. One evening, after a long day on the course, Emma found herself at the club's small employee break room, sipping a cup of coffee. She was reflecting on how much had changed in such a short time when her phone buzzed. She looked down, surprised to see a message from an unknown number. "Hey, Emma, it's the guy who stepped in for you the other day at Oak Ridge. Hope Max is doing well. I wanted to check in. You doing all right?" Her heart skipped a beat. It was him, the Navy SEAL. She hadn't heard from him since that day, and she had wondered if she'd ever see him again. "Max is doing great. Thank you again for what you did. I'm doing a lot better now. I've actually been given a chance for more responsibility here at the club. It feels like a fresh start." She hit send, then waited, her fingers tapping nervously on the table. A few minutes later, his reply came through. "I knew you could do it. Don't let anyone tell you your worth. Keep pushing forward, Emma. And remember, you have more allies than you think." Emma stared at the screen, a lump forming in her throat. She didn't know why, but his words had a depth to them, a weight that resonated with her in a way she couldn't explain. He didn't just see her as a caddy. He saw her potential. He saw her humanity. He believed in her. Over the next few weeks, Emma kept up her training, her work, and her new role at the club. Every day was a step forward, a small victory that proved to her that she wasn't just another nameless worker at a fancy golf club. She was someone who had the power to change her circumstances, to shape her future. But there was something missing. Something that tugged at her heart. The man, the Navy SEAL, had become a presence in her life, though he was never physically there. His messages were occasional, brief, but always kind, always encouraging. But Emma couldn't help but wonder who he really was. Why had he helped her that day? What had inspired him to step in? Her curiosity got the best of her, and one evening after her shift, she decided to find out. She sent him a message. "I've been thinking a lot about the day you helped me. Why did you step in? You didn't know me, and you didn't owe me anything." The reply was swift. "I stepped in because I've seen too many people like you get pushed down by people who think they can use their wealth or status to hurt others. You have every right to stand tall and be proud of who you are. And I've learned that sometimes, you just have to be the one to take a stand, even if it means risking everything." Emma's heart pounded as she read his words. It was more than just a message. It was a philosophy, a way of life. It was a call to action. "But why me?" she asked, her fingers shaking slightly as she typed. "Why did you choose to help me?" His reply was simple, yet profound. "Because I know what it's like to be underestimated. And I know what it's like to rise above it." The message ended there, but Emma felt as if a door had opened. She didn't know exactly what he meant by that. But somehow, she understood. In the months that followed, Emma continued to thrive at Oak Ridge. She had earned the respect of her peers, and her reputation had spread beyond the course. No longer did she feel like an invisible part of the landscape. She was a person. A strong, capable, and worthy individual, who deserved to take up space in the world. She still thought of the Navy SEAL from time to time. The man who had seen something in her when she couldn't even see it in herself. She never did find out his full story, but somehow, that didn't matter. What mattered was the impact he'd had on her life. And that impact had been nothing short of life-changing. The last time Emma saw him was months later, just before the club's annual charity tournament. She was preparing to caddy for one of the highest-profile golfers in the world, a woman who had taken a particular interest in her and had requested Emma personally. As Emma stood by the clubhouse, adjusting the strap of her caddy bag, she felt a presence behind her. Turning, she was surprised to see the Navy SEAL standing there, in his black cap, his posture still as commanding as she remembered. "You've come a long way, Emma," he said, his voice a little softer than before. "I'm proud of you," she smiled, a warmth spreading through her chest. "Thank you. I wouldn't be here without you." He gave her a nod, then glanced toward the course, where the golfers were preparing to tee off. "Don't forget, Emma, there's nothing you can't do if you keep standing up for what's right." And with that, he walked away, disappearing into the crowd, just like he had the first time. But this time, Emma wasn't left feeling small or unnoticed. This time, she stood tall, her heart filled with hope and determination. Because she knew that no matter how big the world was, or how powerful the people in it seemed, kindness and courage would always make a difference. And that was enough to light her way.